Hi guys, Ali Taylor here, and today we're going to talk about how to shallow out your downswing. Right then guys, so that first movement in the downswing of how we get that club shallowing out is one of those key things to getting us delivering the club from the inside, or at least kind of nice and neutral, but also helping to create some extra power, help us compress the golf ball and just generally hit good shots. But the key thing is most golfers really struggle to shallow the club out. So we're going to talk a little bit about why you might struggle shallowing it out and why there's certain things that you might already know how to do that would get you shallowing the club absolutely perfectly already. Right then guys, so what do we mean by shallowing out in the downswing? So what we're talking about, very visual from down the line, is that the club moves back to the top of the swing, and as we start that downswing, that club moves down behind the body a little bit, allows us to deliver the club from the inside, and then we can turn into that golf ball, really compress it, get some great accuracy and some good distance. But it's not predominantly what we see with most guys, and I've been sent, certainly while we're in lockdown, a lot of guys have kind of been jumping online nowadays and having a little bit of coaching, trying to make sure they're working on the correct things. And something I see with a huge number of golfers is that some pretty decent movements on the way back, but that first movement in the downswing is very much that way. And then from there, they actually still manage to rescue it a little bit. So some guys will move nearer to the golf ball to shallow out, and there'll be various other movements to try and get the club on the ball. But as ever, the more compensations you've got, the more likely you are to be inconsistent doing it. So I think the important thing is it's understanding how we get the club to shallow out initially. Now, certainly for me, when we look from face on, with all the best players in the world, what you tend to see is that as the club's moving back and the upper body's rotating, the lower body starts to follow, but then the lower body's already starting to go towards the target, which then gets the club shallowing out. So let me show you from this angle. So as the upper body's going one way, already that lower body's now starting to unwind, the club shallows out, and that's where we get that delivery. Now, I think what's challenging for guys is they understand that the lower body needs to initiate the downswing. I think the challenge for a lot of guys is that they don't do that to begin with, or if they do, they're actually doing it too late. So what you'll see with many club golfers is that they'll swing to the top, and then from there, they feel that first movement now wants to be this. Now the challenge there is if I do that down the line, get to the top, everything's stopped, now I'm going to go lower body. You can see my first movement tends to still be a little bit steep. You know, so we're not seeing that shallowing out. I hear a lot of things mentioned about get to the top and feel that you let the club drop down. I think if you're in that position halfway down, there's a lot of compensations you've got to make. So like I said, you know, the key is, what if you already know how to shallow out and how to use your lower body correctly and time it correctly? Wouldn't that be amazing? So there's a couple of things I think we do as children that we maybe don't allow ourselves good enough chance to do when we're adults, and particularly swinging the golf club. So the first one would be throwing a golf ball. Throwing any ball. So if you stand side on, don't worry about being golf posture, just very much watch my arm, because when the club shallows, obviously so does the arm. If I were to throw a ball, I'd go back and my arm would shallow to throw that way. But if you watch my sequence when I throw, as that's going back, I'm already stepping towards the target. There's a separation, upper and lower body, and that arm shallows out to get that. So that's great, and I've spoken about feeling like you're throwing a ball in the past. Now I've got something else though. So a lot of us have played tennis growing up as well. Now, unfortunately I've not been able to get my hands on a tennis racket. I've got a badminton racket, so this will do the job for us. So when we hit a forehand shot, I'm going to get my left hand out of the way, what we would tend to see is that that'd come back, and then you can see how that racket goes up, shallows out, and would hit the tennis ball. So if we look from face on, just keeping my left arm out of the way for now, we would see that as we're going back, that lower body, before, only just as I'm getting halfway back really, is already starting to go towards the target. And as a result of that, we can see how that racket shallows out. So notice how early the lower body starts moving. Maybe put both hands on. Try and go earlier and earlier if you can. That's good. And then pop that into the golf club. So what we're going to feel is almost, for me, that almost feels there when I'm doing the tennis shot, as though the club's only really getting here and I'm already starting to go. So let's try that. Not quite early enough. That feels very, very early. So it's not really a case of, you know, trying to initiate with the lower body. It's just because I think I already do it, but it's trying to go earlier and earlier and see how early it can be. I mean, for me to feel really exaggerated, I could almost have a little step. And if we see down the line what that club does, you see, I'm not having to think about shallowing the club out. By improving the sequence of my body, the club's naturally going to shallow out, my arms are going to shallow out, and I'm going to be able to deliver the club from a much better position and hit a lot more good golf shots. Right guys, so hopefully there you could see a pretty simple video again on, first of all, helping you understand why it maybe doesn't happen. You know, certainly when you're videoing yourself and you're looking at that start, the downswing, that transition, why that club gets out of position, and then some compensatory movements we make from there. But like I said, if you can kind of get the lower body working a little bit earlier in the backswing, only the lower body, the upper body's still going to help complete that backswing, the club naturally shallows out and it's just much, much easier to deliver the club on the path you want, compress the ball and get some really, really powerful, accurate shots. So guys, as ever, hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, like and share it, comment below and I'll get back to as many people as I can. Hit the subscribe button if you don't already subscribe. Also ring that notification bell, make sure you find out whenever I drop a new video. But for now, put this stuff into practice that we've spoken about today. Let's get you hitting good golf shots. Let's get you playing better golf and enjoying your golf more than ever before. So guys, you can also follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Ali Taylor Golf. Hopefully catch up with some of you guys soon. Stay in contact.